we're continuing our study in the Prayer of Love book by Dr. Mark Hamby and Roger Roth. We're on page 169. It says, if you look at offense as a spirit that is living and attaches itself to anyone who accepts it, then we see behind the act of offense. The book of Hebrews 12:15 warns us to look diligently lest any root of bitterness springing up trouble you, and thereby many be defiled. No, that's what we've been talking about this offense, that it's a spirit, it's not, and if we look, to the person and whatnot, if we don't understand that, it makes it harder, I think, to deal with. And so I think that paragraph there says a lot. In the biblical story of Esau and Jacob, we have a perfect illustration of this. Isaac had twin sons, Esau and Jacob. Esau, being the slightly older and the favorite of his father, had the birthright to the inheritance. Esau, however, cared little for spiritual things and sold his birthright to Jacob. Jacob was not totally honorable, but tricked his blind father into giving him his blessing as well. When Esau found out what was done, he set out to kill Jacob. Even though he had freely sold his birthright to Jacob, he felt wronged. Though they made amends with each other, Esau harbored a root of bitterness. Esau was the father of the Edomites, and today the descendants of Esau and Jacob are still at war with one another in the Middle East, more than 3,000 years later. Jesus, in his parable about the servant who was forgiven by his master, but would not forgive the one who owed him, told of how his master delivered him to the tormentors until all that was due was paid. Jesus said, "So shall my heavenly Father also do to each of you who from the heart will not forgive his brother his trespasses." The main point is not that God is going to punish us if we don't forgive, but rather that in not forgiving we punish ourselves and are tormented by anger and bitterness. Only forgiveness from the heart can release us from this torment.
In the previous page, 168, it says, in the little chapter thing, was really an important message, I think. Harboring offense causes you to suffer for someone else's wrong. So, there's a lot of things to say, until we're talking about offense, but we all get offended. I mean, let's just be realistic. Some things offend us, but harboring it is what will cause us to suffer, and it causes us eventually, depending on what it is, we get sick and everything else over it. Plus, it gets us to a place of where we harbor too much offense too often. It makes it so people don't even want to be around us, because we're always defensive or snappy or whatever you want to call it, and so I think that's a really an important thing. I don't know if Esau and Jacob, they made amends with each other, but do you believe that Esau harbored a root of bitterness?
Do I believe that he did?
In the Bible, according to the Bible, that Esau harbored a root of bitterness still?
Oh, afterwards?
Yeah.
You mean today?
I mean, after it says, though they made amends with each other, Esau harbored a root of bitterness. I don't know if that's true or not. I mean, that's what I'm just asking.
Yeah, I mean, it's not something that I remember, and I guess it's something that we can go back in and look at and see.
Sure, but I mean, Jake came and offered everything. He could have everything, because he was fearful that Esau wanted to kill him. And they came together, and he said, "No, I don't want that. I just want us to be together." And they made amends. So I don't know if that. I mean, it could be true. I don't know. I missed it later on, but anyway, I just wanted to.
Right, and how many times have we seen? We know the people. I mean, maybe we've had people in our lives that we've known that do that harboring offense, and we see how really miserable they are, in their own selves, because they can't forgive and they can't, and they just, they cheat themselves out of love, really. I mean,
Well, that's how, I mean, really, it's where it directly led to things like the Civil War here. I mean, brother against brother and stuff like that, harboring these offenses, you know. And sure, there's people who come into your life and try to stir that stuff up. But I mean, we as Christians should be hopefully responsible enough, and number one, is in our own families at least, and perceptive enough to know the difference between somebody doing that and, you know, and not. That's just my thought, but. I mean, look at it, was Hatfield and the McCoys, so for forever and ever, if we trace their history back enough, they're related. Yeah, so, I mean, they harbored a fence, so something happened, and the family harbored it, and added to it on both sides.
I never really studied it out, but I remember, I think it was Gary Garner maybe that was saying something about that if you research it out in the Bible, in the Old Testament, he said like the worst wars were the brother-brother wars.
Oh, yeah?
Where it was, yeah, I remember he made that statement.
Hmm.
You reminded me when you said that, brother against brother, that, so, might also be something to investigate.
Yeah, it would be. Yeah. Main point.
The main point is not that God is going to punish us if we don't forgive, but rather than in not forgiving, we punish ourselves and are tormented by anger and bitterness. Only forgiveness from the heart can release us from this torment. Offense is a trap. Offense, excuse me. Offense is a trap. Have you ever loaned someone some money and they did not give it back?
Yes.
A little while later, you saw them with a fancy coat or a shiny wristwatch or a new car. You got angry and thought to yourself, they have money to buy these things and can't even pay me back. You may cuss the daylights out of them, kick the cat, and slam the door because you're so angry. You are the one who's trapped. They may be enjoying their new purchase, but you are controlled by your feeling of offense.
So how do you deal with that when someone didn't pay you back?
If you don't have it to loan out, don't loan it out.
Right,
Expecting it to come back, you know.
Yeah, that's one way to approach it, but when he said the question, have you loaned people money and they haven't paid you back? She said yes, so I said, how did you deal with that?
We haven't dealt with it, we just let it go.
Let it go.
We're not gonna get the money back.
Yeah. Are you harboring, I mean, do you have any,
I don't even think about the guy,
no?
yeah.
No, that's good.
I mean, he wasn't a relative or anything,
Sure.
so.
And
We
my,
shouldn't have given the money, but what are you gonna do?
my rule of thumb in anything like that nowadays, because I've seen it, especially in families, even my own family, where loaning money to people has destroyed relationships. Like, sort of like, you know, you're not supposed to live together with your family and all these, or friends, whatever, and all these rules are true, you know, to some extent, because it can destroy so much, you know? So, but what I have come to discover is if I have it to loan, I have it to give. I'd rather just give it and never think about it ever again.
Me too.
It's just so much easier that way.
No.
Yeah,
I didn't then, I wanted, so it's a large amount of money,
yeah.
and I expected him to pay us back, but he didn't, but now, especially my family, I'd rather give it to them.
Yeah, right.
But they
It's
won't.
joyful, yeah, yeah.
Usually they don't take it anyway, but I do like to take the money.
I'll be your family.
You'll take my money.
I'm kidding. That was funny.
And sometimes, you know, sometimes it's hard to be on the other side too, the one that has to borrow or has to ask for help, and then sometimes they don't have, or maybe they can't pay at the rate that they agreed to or that they thought they could because of circumstances and, you know. And,
But at the moment, they'll agree to anything.
well, yeah.
Because they're panicking.
Because they need it.
Yeah,
And, you know, they're, you know, looking for someone,
to bail them out.
yeah,
Yeah.
you know, someone that they trust enough or they're not embarrassed enough to ask, you know, because, you know, they say that there's a lot of people starving in the United States.
Oh, yeah, that's what they say.
And to me, it's like, in this country, with the, as plentiful as it is, there should be no reason for that.
I just can't believe that's true.
It's true. There's people that's with pride issues.
Yeah.
Won't ask for food, won't ask for anything.
But there are organizations to help these people out.
It doesn't mean that you're still willing to swallow their pride to ask.
Speaking of that man that we lent money to, down the road, I did forgive him, and I told him that I forgive him, and it wasn't that much later, he called and wanted to borrow money again.
Yeah.
You know, I couldn't believe it. Steve,
Oh,
yeah, it wasn't too long after that, he called, wanted to borrow some money again.
that's funny.
It's weird.
Well,
San Francisco. Not
Steve,
bad.
I said Steve.
I mean, what do you do though, I guess, if you have, if, you know, like this story, or this little paragraph says, if you loan somebody money and all of a sudden you see them, and they're kind of like, it's almost like they have an abundance all of a sudden, and they're not, I mean, did they forget? Did they, I mean, are you supposed to remind them, or, I mean, obviously this, you're harboring, you know, you're offended by it.
Yeah, but why are you offended? Here's the thing that this is why I was saying I'd give it instead of, if somebody is at the point where they're asking to loan money, or asking for a loan, they're pretty hard up.
Right.
No matter what, it could be in the middle of the week and they don't get paid for another week and a half or whatever, it doesn't matter.
Right.
So, you know, if I see them blessed later on, I'm happy for them.
Right.
You know, that's just how I think. Maybe I shouldn't, I don't know, but I just, whatever, it doesn't matter to me, it's only money. It doesn't matter to me. I have lost so many friendships over 20 or $30, you know, or $10 even, where people don't even come around anymore because they loaned, you loaned them $10 6 months ago. Well, why, what does it matter? It's $10.
People have different
Yeah.
perceptions on stuff like that.
Sure they do.
Because there's some people that won't, like, you can't give them anything. They'll be like, well, even if they want it, they'll be, well, what can I give you for it?
Yeah.
They won't just take it as a gift. They'll be
Some
like,
people don't, but then you give them the money and you let them give you back what they want to give you. Because it blesses them, so you let them do it.
Right, but I'm saying,
If they're in need, they're in need,
I'm
so.
saying, to me, maybe that's also the kind of person that expects when they loan something that it's gonna be
Sure.
given back, you know, or
And there's the other part of the problem in our human race, that you said just right there, our expectation about others. It should be nothing but to love one another, that should be our expectation. Anything outside of that, we're always gonna be disappointed, we're always gonna let us down, we're always gonna be upset. You know, because if you expect anything other than love, you'll never, ever be happy.
yeah, because I had stuff even with my kids, like I'll help them out with stuff, and I had, you know, well, someone had a ticket, you know, so in that circumstance, I was, well, I'm not just gonna give you the money, because this is something, this is like a lesson that you have to learn, and if you have to learn by paying the money, so be it, you know. You know, I'll give you the money now, so that you don't get into more trouble, but I expect it to be, you know, paid back. Then I had something where I helped with something else, and then I just decided, like, you know what, just don't worry about paying me back for that. You know, I said, you know, I'm your dad, and I want to give you something, you know, and I can afford it right now, so. You know, so I don't know if that's what that's an example of, but I just felt like the other thing was something that, you know, you need to learn a lesson about.
Well, okay, so let's get back to your example about the ticket. The one, I mean, I don't know which one it was, but did they have the money?
No, I mean, not up front.
Well, if they aren't gonna have the money, then when are they gonna have the money? I mean, do you understand what I'm saying? What lessons are you teaching them? They're freaking out about the ticket already.
Well, but that's a longer story.
Oh,
but
okay,
It
alright,
could have been
alright.
handled
Differently.
for less and quicker, or for less money.
Okay, all right. So it was just being young and irresponsible.
Right.
All right, I get it.
All right. I'm almost afraid to cover too much.
Well, I usually go back anyway.
Yes, it does.
Doesn't matter where he gets you.
I was reading started reading the other book yesterday with the one you mentioned.
Shaq?
No. The other Mark Hamill.
Oh, Mesa So God?
Yeah. Just at the beginning where it was talking about the portals or the
Yeah, dimensions, whatever. Yeah.
stuff lining up.
Yeah, lining up.
I don't know if everybody has that book or not. Did he give it to me?
I'm not sure who gave it to you. I know he gave it to some. Did he give it to you guys?
No,
Okay, well then, I don't know. I don't know.
I'm not gonna buy anybody's book until I finish it, started ready.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, it says the blackjack tree in your life. It is like the story of the man who planted an orange grove. He planted a whole grove of new orange trees, and he waited for years for them to mature. He painstakingly tended the orchard, pulling off the blossoms one by one from the trees in this beautiful little orchard so they would bear more fruit. He did this for 3 years. In the 4th year, he let the fruit grow, and he had the most beautiful pieces of fruit. But when he came to eat them, they were very bitter. He couldn't understand it. He had a fence around the whole orchard. He had cultivated it, kept it clean, used only the finest trees, yet the fruit was bitter. So he went around and around and still couldn't figure it out. Finally, way down at the far corner on the other side of the fence, he found a blackjack tree. The old farmers say that the blackjack tree not only takes nectar into the root system from the soil, but also gives off a terrible bitterness from the roots. The roots of that blackjack tree had grown under the fence and had wrapped around those of the fruit trees. The fruit was bitter because one of the blackjack trees outside of the fence down in the far corner of the orchard. That blackjack tree is like an offense that we allow. It builds up a root of bitterness that injures our good fruit. Our peace, our joy, our hopes and dreams, they all become contaminated if we don't deal with the offense. This is reminiscent of what the prophet said. Yet I plant of thee a holy, noble vine. How did it get turned into a degenerate plant?
So I have a question for you, Ms. Judy, since you're bringing that one thing up, and it kind of goes along with this. When you told this person that you forgave them, did they call and ask you forgiveness? Did they come over, or you went and sought them out?
We went.
Yeah.
And he owned a restaurant, and
I
we
see.
went to the restaurant, and I told him, yeah, that he
And when you said that to him, how did he react, or what was his response?
I don't remember, I think he just thanked me and shook my hand or something, I don't exactly remember.
I'm just surprised, I was just surprised that you were led to do that, because I don't really hear a lot of people tell me that they would go and do that. It's surprising in a good way, that you would tell someone that. You go out
Did
your
you
way.
forgive him?
Well, you go out of your way. It's different if someone calls you up or comes over your house, says,
No.
I'm sorry I did wrong to you.
It was a long time after, but, but I did. But what really amazed me was him calling
Yeah.
and wanting to borrow some more money. I couldn't believe it.
That is.
Needless to say, we didn't live together anymore.
But I mean, yeah, I know what you're saying too. I mean, sometimes we can forgive in our heart, like, I forgive that person, but we don't actually go out and say, tell them,
Yeah.
I forgive it.
Because that could restore relationships.
Right.
This obviously didn't with you in your case, but something could have happened to that person, and they, large sum of money or not, where they couldn't because someone got sick, or, they got in a car wreck or whatever.
Mm.
And you don't know all the circumstances, and they felt like they couldn't tell you because you were mad at them. Sometimes it restores relationships, when you go out of your way, especially led by God, and say, I don't know what happened between us at that point in time with that money or whatever, but for me, it's all forgotten, it's all forgiven, and I've moved on, and, I just wanted to tell you that, because I still care about you, and I want to make sure you're okay, and I want to see how your kids are, or whatever, what's going on in your life, because, you were part of my life, and, you blessed me. And I just wanted you to know that. You come to somebody and you say that to them, it's hard for them to be upset with you. it's hard for them to think anymore, well, that money was more important than I was, because you've just proven to them the money or whatever it wasn't, you know, the person was. Because, you know, God can restore, like, whatever amount of money it is, doesn't matter, it could be 10 grand, but God will restore that if your heart's right, you know what I mean? He'll restore that, or give you what you need back in return, or whatever. As long as we can value people more than our things, I think that's gotta be one of the first rules of not getting offended. People have to be the most important things to us outside of God. Because if they're not, then those expectations come up, we start measuring, and then offenses happen. You know what I mean? That shouldn't. You know, I don't know if this is true or not, but, you know, I'd like to think that, I heard this week that Pete Rose got reinstated to everything. This week, I heard that, this week, that he got reinstated to everything in baseball. And I don't know if you know the story with Pete Rose, it was pretty big because he was a big star at the time, but he was a player in baseball, then he became a coach, and he was gambling on games in baseball as a coach. He got caught, he denied it for years, and you know, he had one of the most remarkable, as a player, he was one of the most remarkable ever players. So they wouldn't let him in the Hall of Fame.
Well, you know, it was up to him, he just loved baseball and he loved it. He never really intended in his mind that he would.
Was doing harm, yeah.
Yeah, he couldn't fathom the fact that, yeah, you're not supposed to do that, Joey.
Right. Right. So, you know, so this week, it's been, I don't know, man, what, 20 years, 30 years? I mean, it's been a long time. They restored him. I don't know if they're gonna let him in the Hall of Fame or not.
No, not yet.
Not yet, but they could now. That's the whole thing, they could. Because now they have a new commissioner and everything else. But it was out of the anger from the old commissioner and the old way of thinking, all those years, denying that guy his chance to get into baseball just to be spiteful. Just because they're offended by what he did. Because the guy, okay, so when you hear him talk, sometimes the stuff he says isn't very friendly, isn't very nice, you know what I mean, on top of it, which doesn't help his case at all. But, you know, some people aren't gonna be the kind of guy or woman that comes along and on their knees begging for forgiveness, they're just not that way.
Well, he was addicted to gambling.
He was.
And he didn't understand that, I don't think, because he didn't throw games.
Right.
He just bet. I think a lot of times he bet his team to win and lost money.
Yeah.
But, I mean, he was addicted to gambling. So, I mean, he had a crutch there that he didn't know how to overcome,
Sure.
you know, but he asked for forgiveness. I mean,
He did in his own way.
yeah.
He did according to what he said they told him to do. He did what they asked, and it still wasn't enough.
I mean, I thought it seemed to me like over the years, he seemed to be like, I mean, he was a little bitter himself that they still wouldn't let him, you know, back to be part of the game that he loved so much and made.
He didn't lose the game on purpose.
No, he didn't. That's what I'm saying.
No, no one ever said that. No one
No.
has ever said that.
No, and he kind of used
That's
that.
unforgivable, and they never.
Yeah, like the Black Sox or whatever, wasn't it the Black Sox in the 1920s or whatever it was?
But I mean, he harbored bitterness too towards,
Right.
you know, the league and you know.
But see, no matter what though, and this is something that Pete Rose could never get his around, is voted in the Hall of Fame or not. If you ask anybody who ever watched baseball, he's one of the best baseball players that ever was awarded.
No doubt about it.
Yeah,
Right.
in the Hall of Fame or not. To him, the Hall of Fame was like, you know, and it still is, the creme de la creme, and, you know, it shows that he was, but everyone already knows he is. You know, so what is enough? You know, and sometimes I had to ask myself that too, like, when it comes to recognition, you know, how much recognition is enough to satisfy me and whatever it is I'm doing? I mean, it could be work, it could be in relationships, it could be here, whatever, you know what I mean? How much is enough? I mean, you know, what do I want? And why do I want the recognition? You know, what is it that I'm trying to get out of this? You know, I was kind of going to that point with, like, you go to offense, well, you know, that's an offense as well, and what he did was wrong, right? And whether it was right or wrong all this time, I'd let him in, it can be debated forever. But what does the recognition do? What does it mean? I mean, how much more should it mean? He was one of the best baseball players ever.
Right.
Why is that enough? If it's not enough, what is going to get into the Hall of Fame going to be enough?
Right. You know, I guess the only thing I could say, it wouldn't really affect him in his lifetime, but it's like, 100 years down the road, and he's not in there, are people gonna remember, or are people gonna, you know?
I don't think anybody ever, I don't think what he did will ever be forgotten. It's just one of the things that just won't, you know, that's just my personal opinion.
Yeah, it'll just be like in the baseball war somewhere
Right.
in the back.
With an asterisk somewhere or whatever. But I mean, in our lives though, have we ever, and this is what, I think I talked about this last week, where, you know, God led me to, after getting saved, go and apologize to people for some of the things I did wrong. And for them to tell me they're not gonna forgive me. That was tough. That was a tough pill to
They said they
swallow.
weren't gonna forgive you?
No, they said no. I asked them to forgive me.
Wow.
Some of them, yeah. But you know, and he can probably attest to it as well. My personality, before I got saved, wasn't nearly as pleasant as you get today. If you call this pleasant. People remember that, you know, and people remember that, you know, and I knew they did then, but I just couldn't stop myself. You know, that's the whole thing, like, before we know who Christ is and really let him meet us and us him and become one, you know, you can't stop. Even though you desperately want to sometimes, you can't stop some of those things in your personality. You want to, but you can't. And you just come out and you just, like, you know, just keep slapping your paws, even though you don't mean to, you know, and you don't want to. And that's how it was with me, you know. Sometimes, I mean, people would say things to me and I would just respond like that. With some of the cruelest things ever. I mean, it really was some cruel things I would say to people. So that, I mean, that would harbor resentment, and over time, you know.
Is that gone completely from you now?
Yeah.
Wow.
I think so. I mean, I get irritated now. I mean, I'm not gonna lie to you, I get irritated now, but I don't think I'm nearly like I was before, am I?
No, because I mean, you seek out help for those things.
Yeah,
You know, from
right.
God, you're like.
But I don't think like that anymore.
Right.
I don't have to think that way, you know? I'm good, okay, so I might get upset, irritated, or whatever. Before, it was like, well, why aren't you doing this because I did this or whatever? I'd be measuring, you know, like we're talking about right now. You know, I'm good enough in all these areas, why are you acting this way towards me? You're wrong for doing it, so I'm gonna just slap you right down, you know? I don't think like that anymore. I don't sit in judgment of that. I don't worry about that, you know? I'm okay with who I am, and if you get upset with me or you say something that's out of line or whatever, that's okay.
Wow.
Well, I know people that, they're so attentive to try to find something negative, or try to find something wrong. You know, to the point where they say they can't even help themselves with it.
Yeah.
They're just like, I'm gonna keep paying attention, and when I find something that's offensive, then I'm gonna be offended. And then I'm gonna show that I'm offended,
Sure.
and I'm gonna lash out, and I know I am, and I know I'm gonna lash out worse than the initial offender towards me, you know what I mean?
Right.
And, you know, that just makes me feel bad that it's all, because it's a torment, really.
Sure
I
is.
mean,
Well, we were talking about a friend of ours on Easter, Dell. You know, and I was thinking about it, and I'm making an assumption, and if I'm wrong, then you please tell me, but I don't think he ever met and got saved by it or anything like that. I'm assuming he never has. Dell's, what is he? He's between you and me in age, right?
oh, he's older than me.
He's older than you? Well, Dell wasn't really good to his body on any level, really. And, you know, he'd be a guy that would get angry. He would stay angry at people. Not all people all the time. He was usually a pleasant guy to be around. But when he got mad at you, he got mad at you. And it wasn't over. It never just ended. He was like, he was stubborn about it, you know. And I wonder, like, because now you said you got diabetes, right? Is that what you said? And so other things going on with him physically. I wonder, you know, and I praise God that I didn't, you know, at 33 I got saved and some of that stuff went away, but I wonder, like, if some of those things are breaking down in his body, because he couldn't be much older than you, is he?
I think he might be 50.
He might be 50.
Who?
This a friend of ours. But his body's failing him. And he was like an ox. I mean, the guy was just naturally born, he was wide and just big. He was kind of, you know, he was a little overweight, but he was just big, you know what I mean? He'd be a guy who'd run right through the wall. You'd think he'd do it if he really put his mind to it, you know? So I wonder if, like, offense and doing this up to your body and not knowing Christ, I mean, how much that, especially the offense part, you know, being offended, how much that destroys your body over time, and you understand what I'm saying? I wonder that.
It can make you sick,
Sure.
because you worry and think about
Well, yeah.
that person, what they're doing and why, and,
Yeah.
Because it's stress comes with it.
yeah.
Yeah, the stress is
It
coming
does
with it.
hurt you.
The stress, and then like you could be late, not sleeping right at night because you're thinking about these people that bother you and hurt you, and you know, and you're just never, nothing's ever right, you know.
I was just listening on the way here on one of the Christian channels, and you were talking about there's a certain amount of stress that your body can handle,
Yeah.
and then once you get over that thing, then you start to do damage,
Mm-hmm.
you know, so,
Psychologically, it's proven, yeah.
yeah. So, you know, if you're always over that level, you know, on a consistent basis or on a daily basis, you know, over time, you know, you're probably not gonna be healthy,
No.
you know, it might just be mentally, and it might be physically as well. I mean, it probably is physically because of that, it's stuff going through your body
Sure.
that's causing that, you know. So
But, you know, and I think though that, I mean, it hasn't really talked about it, but I think really that, you know, the physical things that can happen from being offended can be tremendous and impactful, especially over time. I really believe that, you know, I just do. I can see the results of it over time, just destroying us from the inside out, you know, in every way, spiritually and physically.
No. I mean, it's, you know, I find myself in times where it's just, I've said this before, where I'm more easily offended than others, but it's so, I just love those days when I'm not though, or when I just,
Yeah.
everything just.
It rolls right off your shoulders, yeah.
You know, I was thinking too with, you know, as far as debts, I guess the only thing I can think of is if we start getting upset because someone owes us something or someone made a promise to, or whatever, you know, we can just look back and say, and realize that all our debts were paid, you know, and we didn't have to do, and couldn't do anything to pay them, you know, and so if we can be forgiven for everything, you know, by God, then how can we harbor bitterness towards someone else because they owe us something way less than that, way less than that?
It just made me also realize, like, you know, the 70 years a year of Jubilee, right? Well, if you look at how things are lined up in the Bible through, you know, they use like 1,000 years or whatever. I mean, we're in the beginning parts of Jubilee, as Christians, as Jewish Christians. We are in that Jubilee right now, where everything has been forgiven, everything, and we get to live debt free forever because of that Jubilee. You know, if we can start looking at that with our relationships, you know, we'd have a spirit of freedom. A spirit of freedom with the people who are around us. Not only the people that are close to us, you know, or people we go to church with, or friends, but people we work with, or go to the bank, or wherever, you know, have that same spirit. Yeah, you'd be surprised, I think, we might be surprised how much people start to like us.
Right.
How much people think that we're good to be around, you know? They enjoy us. You know, what a crazy thought that might be. You know, you're a Christian and you're likable. I mean, wow.
Yeah, I think it's pleasant too, like just people that work, like you're talking about the bank or whatever, the people that work in a people job where you're dealing with people, some people are way better at it.
Yes, they are.
You know, I go to certain banks, so to speak, and they're all like, how you doing? How's your day? How's your, you know, you got any plans? You know, I mean, just like,
How was Easter? How are your kids?
yeah, I mean, and people that don't even know me, but they're, you know, but every time, you know, I don't go in there often, but every time I do, they're pleasant, you know, and they make it like, you know, they make it more enjoyable to be
Sure.
in there. And if you've had to wait in line, you know, you don't feel as bad when you get to the front, because they're like, you know, oh, I'm sorry you had to wait, and how was this, and that, you know, and, you know, they make you feel like, and they're genuine. They make, you know, they don't feel like, oh, this is just what I have to say, you know. or my boss is here, so I better be nice, or, you know,
Right.
I feel like they're genuine, you know.
Well, I tell you what, you know, it's crazy. When next time you go through a drive-through, you know, to get a drink or whatever you know, go to the drive-through to get, ask somebody how they're doing. They'll be floored by it. They are. And especially when you're genuine, like you said about it. Hey, how you doing? They look at you, they're like almost shocked, you know, because most people just want to complain or here's my money and just, you know, don't give me a receipt or whatever. That's all they say, or, you know. Yeah, genuinely ask people how they're doing. Hey, this job's tough, I know, because it's cold out. I bet you're happier now than what you were a month ago. You know, just little things like that, because having empathy for people really is, I think, the start of having any good relationship with people you never met before.
Yeah, I used to like, you know, I mean, I'm still not as extroverted or whatever as some, but I used to, you know, I used to be real bad, you know that, but, you know, and I used to like, not like certain things because of it. Like, I didn't want to get a haircut because I got to sit there and talk to that person for hours. And I used to have long hair, so it'd be like even longer. You know, I got to deal with this person for 10 minutes or however long it takes. You know, but now those things are a lot more pleasant because, you know, because I can start talking to people because I just, you know, because I love more. You know, like, I see you think about something.
I just feel like 25 people in your house and you're just gone. In your own house even. You come back a couple hours later when half the people are gone. You're going, oh, there's Tim. Hey, where you been?
Well, yeah, but that wasn't because of that. But anyway, it was a little bit funny though, talking about banks. Lily just told me the other day she drove off with the thing that's supposed to go back.
Oh,
to
Oh, gosh.
She drove away with it. Had to go back.
That's so embarrassing. I did that before too. Yeah.
So happy to get my money that take home too. Yeah, but I mean, to me, that's something I go back to though, is how God has forgiven me
Yes.
for everything. How, you know, and so how dare I not be able to forgive? Because whatever it is, it's just way less than that, way less than what He forgave me for.
If God can forget all of my wrongdoings, not only that I've already done, but I'm ever going to do, He's already forgiven them and forgot them.
Yeah.
How dare I even think about what it is you do? You know what I mean? I don't even have a right to look at myself anymore, not to mention you. Only thing I can pray for, you know, I'm supposed to be praying for is God, every day you're God today. Whatever happened yesterday, you know what happened. You know my heart is to serve you. You know my heart is to change to be more like you. My heart is to be more Christ-like every day. And I dropped the ball. And I dropped the ball yesterday, but today's a new day. And you're still God today. You know, you're just as much God today as you were yesterday.
Right.
You're the constant. I'm the one that's the variable, the one that's changing, that's trying to get better. You know, you're the one that makes the difference in my life. If it wasn't for you being in my life, no, there would be nothing of any good that comes out of my life, you know. And reminding yourself of that kind of stuff, and I don't measure, or I try not to judge or measure other people, because I can't even measure myself, because
Right.
what God's already done.
Right.
He's already said you're good enough the way you are, but I want you to get better at this, whatever this is. And this is what I want you to be, is more like me, you know, like Christ-like. But to do that, you have to lose your head and put on my head. You know, so if I start doing that, truly doing that, then I won't even see what you do as offensive. It won't even bother me. You know, I won't even look at it. I won't even be offended. I'd love to get to that place, man. That would be great, where I'm never offended.
Right, because, like you said, you dropped the ball, and God forgives you, and He knows you're hurt, but when you do that with someone else, it's like, it's almost like you have to prove yourself.
Yeah,
Because you don't have to with God, because He already knows,
he already knows.
you know, what's in you. He knows
He made
if you're
your heart.
genuine or not.
He made your heart.
Yeah,
He knew you before he knew the foundation of the world.
right,
I mean, just to think about that. Try to wrap your head around 5,000 years ago, before he made anything, he knew all of us. And then what I mean by all of us, every person that's ever lived, is living now, and ever will live. He knew us all. I can't wrap my head around that.
I can't.
Not to mention that just spoke light into existence. let there be light, and it just continues on and on and on and on and on. You know, after that, it just blows my mind.
Yeah, but like what you're saying is, you know, to be like him, you know, and be that forgiving, or that, you know, we have to be willing to accept something instead of making them prove themselves. I think that that's sometimes, at least for me sometimes, I feel like I have to make someone prove themselves worthy, but why? I mean, even if they don't change, I still have to love them anyway. So,
You still want to love them.
yeah,
That's the thing, is like, you know, God says that we're supposed to love people, which is true, we are. But it's not a commandment out of fear. It's a commandment that we should be compelled to. We should want to love one another. It should be natural if we love God. It should come like, you know, I'm gonna love you, not until you do this wrong, I'm just gonna love you anyway. You know, because what you do doesn't matter. It's between you and God. What you say to me doesn't matter. That's also between you and God. You know, I really think that a lot of times when people go off and they start yelling and screaming and maybe even hollering and cussing, you know, it's all saying to me over and over again, I need to be closer to God. I need that love, that touch of love. I feel so unwanted. I feel so hated that this is what I come back with. You know, inside of me is this struggle that you never see until I get really upset. And when I say it, and when you see it, it's ugly because I don't feel that love, that same love that you have. You know what I mean? A lot of times I can feel that, and I can sense that in somebody when they're getting that angry, and I'm okay with it because I remember. I'll never forget how I felt before I knew God. I'll never forget how I felt inside of me all the time. Never. So if I can keep remembering that, it helps me not get mad at people too, you know what I mean? It just helps me with that. Doesn't always help me, but it helps a lot of the time.
I think sometimes, in my case, too, I'll look at, I'll see things people do, you know, and, you know, things that are wrong, or things that are a little bit shady, so to speak, right? And sometimes I gotta think like, wait a minute, maybe I need to examine myself too. Maybe I'm doing something that other people think is underhanded.
Yeah.
Maybe, you know, because I'm not perfect either, so what right do I have to be trying to pass all these judgments on others without even trying to see what I'm guilty of, or what, you know.
Or if somebody gets mad at you for something, even if you never intended for them to be mad at you for anything, you know, maybe you should listen. Maybe there's something in there. Hey, maybe I am doing some of what they're saying. You know, maybe I should pray about this, and maybe ask other people, do I act like this, you know? Am I being this way, or do you ever see me like this, or, you know, because I don't want to be offensive to people. So if someone's offended, there's probably something there to it, you know what I mean? Even if it's remote or small, it doesn't matter. You know, I want to find whatever it's imperfection inside of me, and just when somebody's upset, I'd rather find that imperfection in me, take it to God and have Him fix that, so I'm not an offense to somebody going forward, you know, or even that person. You know, because I realize that, you know, a lot of times people get mad and it's for other reasons. But there's some truth in a lot of what people say as well. I'd rather not have that in people's minds. You know, the offense because of me and my personality or whatever.
Or yeah, or sometimes we get so, I don't know, I don't know the word I'm looking for, where we're just like, I didn't do anything wrong. Well, they have no right to be offended, you know, and
So prideful.
like you said, like, you have to listen to what they have to say, because maybe you can find something in there, either a misunderstanding or something you didn't notice,
Yeah.
you know, but if you really love people, and if you really don't want to offend people, then you're willing to listen and try to find something, or even to apologize, even though you don't feel like you should. Even if you can't, if you go through the whole thing and you still can't find anything, you still just go, oh, I'm sorry I offended you. Wasn't my intention, you know, I care about you, I don't, you know, and, you know, let me know what it is, and I'll stop.
Yeah, let's try to get past it. Yeah. Because you're important to me.
Because, you know, sometimes something that,
I mean, how many people in your life make you genuinely feel important? I mean, how many people? 5? If you're lucky, maybe? you know, 10 at the most. I mean, I can't even see that. You know, so if that's the case, I mean, how many people do I come in contact with every day that I have an opportunity to make them feel genuinely important to me, that I maybe missed that opportunity? Because if you feel so genuinely important to somebody, the whole level of how they look at you is completely different, you know what I mean? If you look at like Paul and John and all these people in the New Testament, they genuinely cared about people, and they were genuinely important, those people were to them, and those people knew it. And that's how they turned the ministry upside down. You know, it was genuine love, but it was a genuine importance. It wasn't so they could have their own agenda, or, you know, they could get, oh, John, all right, I can speak now, or whatever. It had nothing to do with that. It was a genuine importance, you know, and it was a movement of the Holy Spirit, but people felt they were important, you know. That's why I look at it now. I'm looking at, how do I make people feel important to me?
I had a boss one time, and that really rubbed me the wrong way, you know, really I got offended by and whatnot. And one time he came up to me and said, hey, you did a really good job today. And thinking back on it, I think he was being genuine. But I was like, okay, sure. Like I treated him like he was being sarcastic, even though I don't think he was. You know, because I harbored that bitterness against him for other things,
Right.
that I wasn't even willing to take I couldn't accept a good word from him. You know, and I shouldn't be like that.
No,
You know?
that's hard, yeah.
I should cherish that more,
Yeah,
because it's coming from someone that you know, I think doesn't think much of me.
right.
You know.
Yeah, and you gotta think about there are people you conflict with in your personality, right? It just is. That's just the way we are. There's some polar opposite of you somewhere. And, you know, you gotta think about it, when those people give you genuine compliments, how difficult you think it is for them to even do, you know what I mean? So, like you said, you should cherish it more, or maybe we all should, because you don't know how hard it is for someone to say, you know what, that really meant a lot to me. That really, what you did, or, you know, like you said, with your work, for example, but I mean, most of the time it's not about work, it's just about what you did, or what you said, or what you did for X person, or whatever, you know what I mean? It meant a lot to me. You know, for someone to tell you that says a lot, it really does. I mean, that really shows that you moved them, whether you always got along or you didn't. So yeah, I think you're right. I think we should cherish our compliments. They don't come enough, and when we do get them, we feel weird when we get them, right? Like,
It's always nice to give one too.
it is,
Yeah.
You know, it makes people feel better about you
sure.
when you give them a compliment.
But it's gotta be real,
It
though.
changes their days though.
It's gotta be a real compliment.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You can't come in and some guy at the church and say, "You're a nice guy, I ever met."
Yeah, because I mean, we have, you know, at work we have problems with like certain people
Personalities,
that,
yeah.
certain personalities that a majority of people don't get along with. You know, we had one of these, I wouldn't say it was a conflict, it was a discussion, it was kind of a conflict, but it was handled in a, you know, discussion manner, and, you know, and when I put my part of the discussion in, I was told that I wasn't listening to the person, which I don't agree with, but in the past, even with this person, that would have made me really angry. But I was just like, I realize now that they can't see things like, I don't know how to put it, like, to him, he was right. And he wasn't really trying to be offensive. That's just his thinking.
Right.
So, I mean, I shouldn't be offended probably either way, but it just makes it a little easier for me to say, well, I understand that he thinks that way, and you know, so even though I don't agree with what he said, I'm not gonna be offended by it,
Right.
you know, because
You ever notice that women and men, how they describe things are absolutely different? Like, men are usually real direct, real to the point. This is, the brick is red and the square, or rectangle, and that's it. And women will describe the entire thing, so until you figure out what it is. And men, we're dumb. We can't figure out what women are telling us ever. You know what I mean? And it causes a lot of conflict. And I'm just speaking now, and I hope it doesn't come across as like I'm misogynistic or anything, because I'm not. But how we communicate as a species, because we really are two different species, is totally different. So women will say that to you, you never listen to me. When we try to listen, but we don't respond a lot of times with the right answer because we have no clue what you're talking about. And you don't believe us. We really don't have any idea what you're talking about. But it's not, because they know how to communicate their way, and men know how to communicate their way. There's a lot of issues sometimes that come up because it's not always communicating the same way. So I think that a real genuine caring person, getting back to what you're saying about listening, try to understand the person you're talking with and the cues they give, and then to say, okay, so let me see if I heard this correctly. Did you just tell me X? That's what I heard from what you told me. And if it's not X, then they'll tell you. A lot of times I think we make assumptions in conversations with people that they said this or they didn't say this. They said something different. We thought that's what they meant. And that with thinking what people mean versus what they say, well, sometimes it gets in a lot of trouble. So I have tried in the last several years with people that, especially people I don't know very well, to repeat back what they said to me from what I hear, which 80% of the time is wrong. But, I'll say, did you just tell me this? Because that's what I heard in my head. And they're like, no, nothing even close. Good, please tell me again. But it helps me sometimes, like, a lot of times, especially if at work, I'm greatly distracted when I'm talking to people because I'm thinking about the projects I have. And it's not fair to people, and I'll be the first to admit it, but I can't shut it off when I'm there once I get into those projects. Because I'm the type of person that when I start it, I want to finish it. I want to solve the puzzle. It means more than anything else to me, solving the puzzle. So when I'm having conversations with people, sometimes I miss what they're telling me. And then I have to get into a place of shutting off the puzzle, shutting that part off, the creative, solve it, put it together part, so I can have a real genuine conversation. And in the past, especially when I was younger, it got me in trouble with my bosses a lot of times. I was a great worker. That wasn't the problem. The problem was